The government has spent £52 billion on education, yet 1 in 10 schools inspected is failing.
So can you now see?
Alex Dolan, a qualified science teacher with 2 years' experience, went undercover as a supply teacher.
Boys, that is... Boys!
Over 6 months, she worked in 16 state secondary schools in London and Leeds.
No, that is enough! When I got my first job as a science teacher, I was really committed, and for 2 years I loved what I did. Since then I've been a supply teacher, and what I've seen has really worried me. A lot of disruption and not much learning. And yet, the government are constantly telling us that standards in schools are getting better every year. This just doesn't really add up.
In February, a teaching agency sent Alex to do a week's supply work to cover as a science teacher at a large comprehensive school in Leeds. Intake High School Arts College failed its Ofsted inspection a year ago because of its poor performance and faces closure if it doesn't improve.
Morning. I'm Alex. I'm here to do some supply this week.
Right, if you'd just like to stand in, Mrs. McCacken will be back down. She'll just check her in with that time. If you sign along with the yellow line.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm Alex.
Oh, hi, Alex.
I'm here all week.
As a supply teacher, Alex should expect to be given a lesson plan and materials for every class she teaches.
Okay. Right, you're going to be in S3.
Right.
Technician, I've typed all the work up for today. I'll make sure that she comes to her room.
When Alex gets to her class, the cover work hasn't arrived, so she has to start without it.
Morning, Year 10. Do you want to come in?
Her first lesson is with a group of 14 and 15-year-old GCSE science pupils.
Just believe me, like, you've got a hell of a lesson today.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, Ken, can you just keep it down? Because it's making this job really difficult. We're just waiting for some cover work to come.
20 minutes later, the exam revision work finally arrives. But the class explained there's another, bigger problem.
Okay, you've got a module exam, listen, on the 2nd of March, which is really soon. So what we're going to be doing is a practice paper for earth materials that come
You don't have a
through.
clue what earth materials are.
Okay, well, I'll hopefully be able to go through some of it.
Believe they do that. You can't have had that many. I can understand that. That is hard. Well, I'm here all week, so you've got me all week.
So we'll try and get some work
We've
done.
got you all week, and then you'll start something with us, and then as soon as you go, then we'll get another teacher who will start the same thing.
Some pupils are so frustrated they refuse to even attempt the exam revision work.
Boys, can you come back? Don't go wandering out.
Later, Alex talks to one of the boys who left her class.
Listen, boys, you have had a rough situation, I'll give you that. You've had a lot of supply. But you can't go, oh, well, therefore I'm just going to fail my GCSE science.
But we are, that's the point.
But I was quite shocked because one of the pupils told me that they've had 26 supply teachers since September. So I can appreciate that they're not massively motivated.
What are we doing?
In the next class, the lesson is a third of the way through before Alex can even attempt to teach them.
I'm being forced to yell to the point where my throat is hurting.
Oh, hiya. We've got a real chaos going on here.
Right. Can I be quiet, please?
If you want Miss Dolan to stay around and want to teach you, then you're going to have to start being a little bit more positive.
Later, in the staff room, Alex discovers she isn't the only one struggling to control the pupils.
Hi. A little. I just had a really tricky group.
You were told we're not allowed to shout at these children. Sometimes you have to shout to be heard.
Well, I shouted. It got so wound up because nobody was listening and we were 20 minutes into the lesson.
Intake High was failed by Ofsted inspectors the previous year, who cited bad management, low exam results and pupil behaviour.
Right, Year 8, you've got me. Go in quietly.
The school was placed in special measures, which means it's difficult to recruit staff. and they're banned from taking on newly qualified teachers.
Right, can somebody get out the English books, please? You go and ask her what the cover work is for Year 8.
Many classes have to cope with a string of supply teachers. When cover work is set at all, Alex often finds it's unchallenging for the pupils and inadequately planned.
No work set. Okay. I'm just doing science this week.
Several of the full-time teachers complained of being overworked and stressed. This young teacher, talking to a senior member of staff, has had enough.
This form is just absolutely terrible. I mean, you've got a really bad combination of people, and I just don't know what to do anymore. They just sit here, throw things at each other, tell each other to fuck off, tell me that I'm shit, tell me that it's all shit in here, and I'm getting to the point where why the hell do I bother coming into this form?
This teacher told Alex she is thinking of leaving, and according to the woman in charge of organising supply teachers, she isn't the only one.
We've struggled getting people to stay for understandable reasons, but it's really, really bad for the kids, and we feel so sorry for them.
Well, I felt particularly sorry for the GCSE lot.
Yes.
Because they were so demotivated.
When schools are in special measures, they're regularly monitored by inspectors, usually once a term.
Right.
If, after a period of around 2 years, they don't improve, they could be closed down. Teachers tell Alex that being in special measures is very stressful.
It's an abysmal thing. Yeah.
So, do you get more funding and more support?
Not particularly, no. You get a lot more attention, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's really supported.
It feels as though special measures is just making a bad situation even worse at that school. I really got a sense that staff morale was so low that I leave with not a great feeling of hope that they're going to get out of that situation.
"10 days later, Alex goes back to Intake High School. She finds things are very different. The teachers are more organised than usual. It turns out the inspectors are in.
We've got an extra lesson.
Oh, great. Brilliant, so organised. And they've got that with their work already, have they?
Yes.
Are there any spares?
With spares underneath.
Oh, great. Oh, that's such a brilliant lesson. Thank you.
Check this out. I've got a lesson plan. I've never had one at this school before, but here it is. Clear learning objectives and outcomes, all because the inspectors are in.
Alex has been told to expect bad behaviour in her next class, a low set for science, but instead she discovers the difference a good lesson plan can make.
What kind of sperm combines with the egg that decides whether it's a boy or a girl?
Do you know what? This is the best we've been for ages, actually.
Is it?
Never.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. That wasn't a bad lesson at all. There was one moment there where everyone was actually listening to me, and it was such a joy. I get quite a buzz out of that, because you often just don't expect to have any kind of attention from people. So it's quite unusual when that happens. Yeah.
Instead of being given her own science classes to take as before, Alex is asked to support other teachers. She sees senior teachers taking lessons they wouldn't normally take that day. Even the pupils are sceptical.
They know the situation.
This teacher doesn't actually work at this school. He's been drafted in from his regular job as a science teacher at another Leeds school to help out here during the inspection.
And are you the only one that's coming from another school? Can you just wait a minute?
There's lots, not in science, but there's lots around the school.
Is that normal then, that they do that?
It's just with the HMI.
Alex discovers that the school has another strategy to manage the inspection.
Hi, how are you? Are you ready for the inspectors?
They've taken some of the very worst ones out when we went out on a day trip, like they did last time, because they don't want to see them.
I'm amazed. So how many have gone out on the school trip? Roughly?
I don't know, over 20.
But surely the inspectors have seen it.
on a school trip while the inspectors are in. I mean, that's never going to be a true reflection of what the school's like.
When Alex arrives early to prepare for her next class, she finds the room unexpectedly occupied.
Nice. I didn't realise you were teaching now.
No, we've unofficially we've withdrawn kids out of year 9 because we've behaved to let them join.
Okay. So what lesson should they be in?
The one that's been observed.
So did you do that before the inspectors appeared?
Arranged it. Oh, we did it a little bit this week.
Alex finds more evidence of challenging pupils who aren't in class during the inspection.
What do you teach?
I'm a teaching assistant.
Have you been in any groups with inspections then?
Just one.
What was it like?
It wasn't maths, we were lucky. I was in geography.
But what was the lesson like?
It was fine. It was fine. We only had 7 kids. The children behaved, a lot of behavioural kids, but I think for HMI in there, I'm doing a workshop instead, some of them, to get them out of the classroom. Yeah. It's a bit false, to be honest, because as soon as HMI go, they're back in.
At the end of the 2-day inspection, staff gather in the hall to hear the results from the newly appointed acting head teacher.
Most lessons were planned adequately, and many were very well prepared.
Alex wasn't able to find out if the acting head teacher was aware that pupils had been removed from some classes.
Overall, the proportion of good or better and higher grades are better than the last inspection.
Inspectors found that progress had been made in teaching and learning. They decided to allow the school to recruit newly qualified teachers again.
Ban from pointing at
The tactics seem to have worked. With inspectors finding the school improving, the recruitment of full-time teachers should be easier. When Alex returns to the school the very next day, it's a different picture. She's asked to cover a GCSE science lesson, and one pupil isn't too happy about it.
No, but you know, like we were inspecting thing yesterday, how come we did a practical lesson with Mr. They're not in here now. We've got a supply teacher again. Well, end of the day, we should have a practice teacher. You're right. Because our GCSEs are at risk here. I'm writing a letter to Tony Blair. So does this sound okay? I have a problem. Me and my colleagues at school feel that our GCSE results are at risk because we haven't had a set science and maths teacher from the beginning of year 10. I feel that this should be sorted out because a while back the government was complaining, and then that's all I put, but I'm going to put complaining because not enough students are getting A's. Don't believe I'm writing it?
Yeah, Tony Blair.
So it's a relief to finish at that school. It's been an exhausting week, but my emotion is that I feel a little sorry for those kids because they're back to square one again on Monday with another supply teacher who they've never seen before. Supply teacher number 27 or whatever it is. I feel for them, I really do. It's a tough situation to be in.
There were other schools Alex taught at, where staff and pupils told her that similar strategies had been used to mislead inspectors.
There are scams going on. I understand the scams. I can sympathise with the attempt to pull the wool over their eyes, but it shouldn't happen. Ultimately, if you lie in terms of cheating the inspectors or manipulating the exam statistics, you're not doing anybody any good. You're not doing the school any good, and you're not doing the individual children any good.
We put our findings to Intake High School. Their response was,
"The figure quoted overstates the number of supply teachers. There has been a relatively high number of supply teachers. All schools prepare more detailed lesson plans for inspections. The feedback from HMI actually noted that more detailed plans were needed for supply staff at the school, and this has been included in an action plan. Staff at all levels regularly cover lessons at intake. The school works with neighbouring schools in the West Leeds partnership. Feedback from inspection is clear that such lessons were not used or graded as part of the evaluation of the school. A comprehensive list of all students and activities was published for the HMI visit. All arrangements were shared at the time of the visit by HMI. No misleading impression was intended or, I believe, given."
At the moment, schools in Britain are normally inspected every 6 years. Alex was to be shocked by the next school she visited.
I know from the agency and other teachers that this is a challenging school. It's going to be a tough day and I do feel quite nervous.
John Smeaton High School in Leeds hasn't had a full Ofsted inspection for 4 years. Since then, its reputation has gone down. On her first day, Alex is asked to take a group of 12 and 13-year-olds for registration.
Put the chair down. Have you worked them out yet?
Almost every pupil in the class is disruptive.
Have you? What did you say to me?
Just piss off.
Do you think somebody might have...
Her next class is art with a group of 11 and 12-year-olds.
Get down from the table. No, don't draw on his work. Go and sit down. Go and sit down. Did you draw on his work?
No.
Let go of his head. Let go of his head, you hurt his neck. You'll hurt his neck.
Behaviour here is a complete nightmare. I mean, I can cope if there's 1 or 2 bad kids, but 5 or 6, and it's a different story. It's so hard to manage. I'm wondering whether it's because I'm a supply teacher or whether other regular teachers here have similar problems to me.
In the staff room, Alex's colleagues reassure her that she isn't the only one experiencing this level of bad behaviour.
You only get 3 or 4 good kids, the rest are disruptive. She thinks we're joking.
And we used to get kids here that regularly went to Oxford and Cambridge. We don't even have academic A-levels anymore.
This teacher explains that 2 neighbouring schools were closed down by inspectors because they were failing. This meant an influx of challenging children into John Smeaton.
When they closed down East Leeds, the kids there went to a place called Copperfields. They closed that, and then they set them here. And as they came in, parents took their children out. Because they didn't want the children to be effing and blinding it every 5 seconds.
Boys, can you both take your jackets off?
1 in 3 pupils at John Smeaton has a learning or behavioural problem, more than twice the national average. To help these pupils, the school gets extra funding.
Okay. Do you know where the best is? Is it that way?
There's a behavioural and learning support unit on site, known as BEST.
Thanks.
Alex goes to visit it in her lunch hour.
How many of you are in here?
At the moment, there's 5.
Well, it seems to be like quite a lot of support for behaviour.
There is, but not enough for this school. I mean, really, we need a lot more work, but there's an educational psychologist. See him about once every 2 months. That's it.
I just thought with the best thing there'd be loads of extra support. It sounded really good.
There isn't. Unfortunately.
Can you see a bit of movement?
In last year's GCSE exams, only 16% of pupils here got 5 A to C grades, compared to 81% at another school in the area.
It's just a tiny bit of movement.
With the current level of behavioural problems, this school was struggling to meet its targets.
We live and die on exam results nowadays. One child, if he's really a Fruit Loop, can destroy a year group nearly. By just, in the different classes that he moves through, either mess up the teaching in that classroom or get other kids to follow his example, and it spreads like a rot. So if you were a head who wanted to keep it there, why would you take them?
The problem appears to be that the kids from the area surrounding the school are going to more academic schools further east. So instead of getting a truly comprehensive intake, they're getting the worst kids, and kids that academically are quite weak and have lots of emotional and behavioural difficulties.
Government policy is to give parents greater choice of schools. According to one educationalist, this has created unfair competition for more able pupils.
If there is a market, in a sense, it's in children themselves, and the school's trying to attract the most desirable children to come to their school, and the whole system is weighted against these children who have real problems, such that no school particularly wants to have them. Well, that's a terrible situation for our schools to be in, and so of course we end up with these schools, these sink schools, if you like, where there are high concentrations of very difficult children and not the resources to really address that problem.
We asked John Smeaton High School for a response. They replied,
John Smeaton High School has a strong inclusion policy and has developed effective working practices to address the needs of low-achieving young people and students with special educational needs. There are strong behavioural policies and procedures in place. The atmosphere is usually calm. The school has an exceptionally dedicated and skilled staff, with an increasing number of students achieving and exceeding the expectations that others have of them.
According to Ofsted, an estimated 1 in 10 schools in England has a serious problem with pupil discipline. At Alex's next school, they were struggling to maintain order, let alone teach. For 6 months, Alex Dolan worked undercover as a supply teacher in 16 state schools. In London, she was sent by her teaching agency to a school in the most improved local authority area in the country for exam results. Highbury Grove School in Islington was last inspected in 2002. It was described as an improving and effective school.
Can you take your little hooded top off? Okay. Right, everybody should have a sheet of A4 paper. Listen carefully to what you've got to do.
Alex's very first class starts with a punch-up.
No, boys, that is enough. That is enough. Stop it now.
Fighting between pupils in class and in the corridors turns out to be a daily occurrence over the next 3 weeks.
No, boys. Let go of him. Boys, can we have coats and hats and things off and get settled? We're just waiting.
Often classes can't start for 15 minutes or more due to constant interruptions. Pupils with coats and hats on. Pupils coming in late. Pupils talking.
Mobile phone off, please. Boys, come on, mobiles away.
In every lesson, Alex has to contend with pupils texting, playing music on mobile phones, or trying to leave early.
Please can you stay in the lesson, because it's each time you leave class you're missing out on education.
What education? Everyone's
Some would be verbally abusive.
Okay, you're going to have to go out.
Yeah, so what, man?
You cannot tell a teacher
to fuck off, yeah.
In this school, discipline appears to have broken down. Even if pupils are aware of the rules, there seems to be little respect for them.
All right, I'm in 10 minutes, go on.
Because some people take advantage of teachers if they know they ain't going to do anything. If they're like...
But then doesn't that make it difficult for people that are really trying to work hard and learn?
Yeah. Like some people in my classes, like one of my teachers says they bring down everyone's grades for their behaviour.
Before going undercover, Alex took extra training in managing bad behaviour in the classroom. Even so, in most classes, she had difficulty maintaining discipline. According to a senior teacher, other teachers were struggling too.
I'm definitely coming across challenging behaviour. That is normal, isn't it? It's not just me.
No, it's normal, I promise you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex offers to help this teacher in one of her free periods. It's one of his more difficult classes, a group of 15 and 16-year-old girls doing GCSE science.
Excuse me, hold on a minute. Excuse me a minute. Can you just stay there for a second? Where you been?
I went to the toilet, sir.
Fine. It's now nearly 25 past. Excuse me a minute. It's now, I've got a witness here, another teacher. Excuse me a minute. Now it's 25 past. This lesson should have started 15, nearly 17 minutes ago.
She said, "No, well, you should like shut up now, please."
Fine, I've called you alert, you go somewhere else, both of you. No. Then you can throw the bags at one another else.
You can't do that, yeah, you're like that. Come back inside. Well, just get in trouble.
Now, I want this work done. Mrs. kindly come in, give you some time to help you. You don't want to do that? Fine, we'll get rid of you from the group.
Right, girls, concentrate.
The senior teacher has pressed the alert button on his electronic register to get assistance to remove the girls from his class.
Okay, if you imagine...
But no one comes.
What do you think would happen?
Finally, the girls get round to doing some work.
10 minutes out of an hour. 10 minutes out of an hour.
Corridors are patrolled by senior teachers, but there are often too many incidents at once for them to respond to.
No, I'm doing about 6 other jobs at the moment, but I'm not doing that one. It's no problem.
Great. Okay, you lot.
In the IT department, Alex discovers the pupils seem to be using the computers for their own entertainment.
Boys, come off the rather intricate-looking games.
Are you on chat? Yeah!
Nobody should be on chat. Come on, come off the chat, please.
Alex consults a senior teacher after the class.
But then I had a lot going on to teenchat.com and various games.
That's pretty much a normal lesson. Isn't it, really? It just tries. I mean, they just. No, it's not. Don't worry.
That's normal.
That's one of our lessons, yes.
It's not your fault.
Are you saying that?
And when Alex asks about the cover work for the GCSE exam pupils, the response is surprising.
So, I think we'll go through the motions and say, this is a work, and if they do it, I mean, don't worry about the fact that they don't do anything.
So it won't be just because I'm a cover teacher?
They're completely hopeless. You just have to make it do it. You don't have to do hard expectations.
In this GCSE class, most of the pupils are playing games.
Come on. This game. There's a game being played on your screen.
I'm designing this. This is my repertoire.
It's not.
Some decide to leave the class early.
Boys, where are you going? You can't just...
Again, the senior teacher seems unconcerned.
I've lost half of my group.
Welcome to the IT social club. It's easy come, easy go.
Alex finds morale amongst other teachers is low.
How are you doing?
About 3 fights and chats.
You did what?
Well, play fights, but it's getting serious, so to break them up.
And you had 3 in one lesson?
3 in year 11, yeah. And then the 4th one starts, I couldn't be asked. Playing patrol, and this kid chucked the chair across the...
The teacher tells Alex that a more senior teacher had told the boy off, then allowed him back into the lesson.
And he just got told off and sent back in.
I told you no one does anything here.
I don't know, I haven't thought...
We haven't got a behaviour problem.
No, it happened last week morning, because I only took them once a week.
I'm used to it, mate. Another hour.
Where are you all supposed to be?
When lessons have already started, Alex comes across this group of 14-year-old pupils in the corridor who should be in science.
No, where is your lesson supposed to be? It's obviously not in the corridor, is it? Sorry. There's weird people in the corridor.
In another free period, Alex decides to help the teacher who told her he was having problems controlling his class. Highbury Grove has a system for monitoring disruptive pupils. Their behaviour is graded from 1 to 5 on a report card after each lesson.
Hardly.
If behaviour doesn't improve, there are sanctions like after-school detentions. But some teachers are very lenient.
Give me a 5, sir, to make it 5. Oh, sir, please, no, sir, don't be like that.
I reckon you need 1.
No. It's not getting involved. I don't.
No.
No, sir, don't go.
So just give him a 5.
A 4 then. 4. A 4.
Not either.
Let me see what it says on the 4. Let me see what it says for a 4. That's right, look.
It says above average.
I was above average.
Compromise. I haven't finished yet.
Give me a 3. What?
Let me finish.
No.
I was going to put 3 straight 4. You want a 3, leave it as that.
Watch him naturally. Watch him naturally. Watch. So,
Spending hours, mucking about with him.
The thing that's so sad is like there's about 4 kids.
Stop running, please.
Well, in that class, I reckon there were 3 or possibly 4 that did some work, and you kind of feel for them because.
I know, and then the others are just mucking about. I know. Sorry, I'm well aware it's how we do this on a global basis down here. It's not what I came in to do this job for. I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
it's not on. You see, you can't do it alone. You need all the support structures in. I mean, I very rarely see deputy heads walking about doing things.
Alex goes to speak to a senior teacher on the school's management team to discuss the behaviour she's seen.
I think it's quite a difficult school, isn't it?
It is a difficult school, definitely, compared to others. But I don't know why the behaviour is bad here.
That's right. I mean, this is in the process of writing a behaviour policy.
Right.
Right, so I'm looking out for clues as to what makes them worse than other places, yeah?
Yeah.
It might be that we don't actually have clear parameters. Yeah, we don't list out the school rules and make a big thing out of it. We don't say, you're not supposed to do this. If you do this, this is what happens. Yeah, we haven't got anything like that.
Alex was to find out that the failure to give pupils clear boundaries could have very serious consequences. Problems with her next class were about to escalate.
Goodness sake. Put the chair down. Right. Can you all sit down? Okay, the bell's gone. Kids are about to come in, I can hear them outside. My heart's going like anything. Because of the last lesson being such a nightmare, I'm just completely stressed out, but can't be any worse than that other lesson. Morning, year 8. Boys, let go of each other now.
It isn't the easy lesson that Alex is hoping for.
It's Friday. I'm absolutely exhausted. I just really hope I don't get that group again.
When Alex returns to school the following Monday, she's asked to teach a challenging class from the previous Friday. Concerned that their behaviour was becoming dangerously uncontrollable, she asked the senior teacher for help.
I think I've got that group next lesson. So if you're not too pushed, I think a little word from you would be good.
Come along.
Okay, who's got the fire extinguisher? Can you put it back? Right. Can you two pick up? No. Boys. Careful. If that goes in someone's face, it'll be really dangerous. No. Can everybody sit down?
After 20 minutes, when the senior teacher still hasn't arrived, Alex sends a pupil to fetch him.
Yeah. We've had the fire.
Everyone should be sitting down and looking at the boards. They did this
He tells her this isn't the first time this class has rioted. They'd done it before with their regular teacher, and people had been injured.
It was only 2 weeks ago when this happened before, and people were in lots of trouble. It's happened now again. That means you haven't learned. Take your hat off your head. Right, those people involved in this, stand up.
Yeah.
2 days later, the same teacher tells Alex there's been yet another serious incident with the same class.
The funny thing is, the very same group in English today rioted again.
No, for a supply or for their regular
supply teacher. Rioted again, did the same thing again, and they are escalating. I think they're looking to see where the threshold is. Yeah, they're prepared to carry on misbehaving and take it. You see, it goes up a notch every time.
Yeah.
See, before the first set of riots, they would have thought of that. Now they've done it once, it's become the thing to do.
Go and sit down. Can't stay in if you're going to do that.
Around a third of pupils at Highbury Grove has a learning or behavioural problem, a higher than average proportion. There is provision on site to teach them separately, if you can get them there in the first place.
Take that and take a textbook as well. And as you work through those questions, you can use the textbook to help. And then there's
School policy, in line with government guidelines, is to permanently exclude as few pupils as possible, even the most challenging ones.
Is it new?
The impact? Yeah, more or less. It used to be
The school has a special unit for the most troublesome pupils. Alex goes there to find out more.
This is for fixed-term exclusions when they're out of school. So the provision is kind of off-site. They're not allowed to mix with mainstream. They're not allowed to have lunch at the same time. They're not allowed to play out or do anything. This is to reduce exclusions and the risk of them being out there committing crimes. basically.
Do you think it works, is it?
Well, it's definitely effective in that it keeps them away from their peers, gives them time to reflect, keeps them off the street, and it does definitely reduce the statistics on exclusions.
Yeah.
However, because they're only here for sort of minimum amounts of time, sort of 7 days, 5 days, 10 days, things like that, I don't know how effective we are in the behaviour stakes. We certainly do apply lots of therapeutic stuff to them while they're here, but how they perform when they go back in is...
Boys!
Highbury Grove School receives extra funding to reduce bad behaviour and help disaffected children to improve. But Alex is told by a senior teacher that too many challenging pupils are preventing classmates from reaching their full potential.
I wonder whether the behaviour really does affect how they do in their GCSEs ultimately.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. Yeah, and you find in every class in the school there are at least a handful who make it very difficult for the others. And so you walk into a classroom at random and there's not a great deal of learning going on because of the various forms of disruption. Yeah, people just can't. I mean, I don't know how kids survive. The ones who actually want to learn. Yeah, I'm surprised parents don't actually sort of take action. I mean, I certainly would. Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm out of there. Senior management didn't seem to want to take any responsibility for what was going on. But then when you think of the proportion of kids that they have with behavioural problems, maybe it's not surprising that the situation has become unmanageable.
Schools are placed in an impossible position, as this film shows. It shows teachers trying to contain children's behaviour that is completely off the wall, and as a result the teacher can't teach the children who want to learn, everybody suffers, teacher morale plummets, the school's reputation in the neighbourhood gets lower and lower. It is a complete recipe for disaster.
The Institute of Public Policy Research has just completed a major study on reducing exclusion and bad behaviour in schools.
What we know is that there are certain schools which suffer disproportionately from having to take in all the children who come in at irregular times during the year, including excluded pupils and a lot of others with emotional needs. The government have promised to introduce admissions protocols whereby all schools have to sign up to share out those pupils fairly by September 2007. I think we're very excited about that prospect. We think if it works, it could really do a lot to redress the balance for schools.
The government's answer is to spread the misery, which on the face of it might seem a sensible idea, but it ignores the truth, which is that a handful of children forced into a successful school can destroy the success of that school, whatever the strength of purpose of the head teacher and his or her teachers.
We asked Highbury Grove to comment.
Last year, Highbury Grove School was named as one of the 50 fastest improving schools in the country. The school has nationally recognised management systems and was awarded a Leading Aspects Award for supporting youngsters who exhibit challenging behaviour. The trend for Highbury Grove is clearly upwards, improving faster than the national trend. Governors, staff and students have been working together successfully to raise levels of achievement and attainment. Secret filming of this kind can only offer a highly selective view of the school.
You can bugger off. Go home. We don't want you here. And by now you know this.
Next, Alex visits one of the top 100 most improved schools in the country for exam results.
Zero tolerance, miss.
One of the key indicators of a successful education policy is improved exam results. The government claims that last year's GCSE grades were the best ever.
It's day one at my next school, and what's particularly interesting about this school is it's in the top 100 most improved schools in the country, and that's to do with GCSE results. So the percentage of pupils that got 5 A-star to C grades at this school has climbed by 19 percentage points since last year. It was a failing school that was in special measures, and now it's made a vast improvement. Here we go.
Morning.
St Aloysius College is a Roman Catholic boys' school in the borough of Islington.
You got your science books, boys? Can I have a look at a science book just so I can see what you were doing? have a look. Oh, here we go, yeah. Crude oil. Yeah, so from a gas...
Within 10 minutes of Alex starting the lesson, the assistant head arrives in the class.
How are they getting on?
All right.
Miss, anybody who doesn't want to learn, you don't have to teach them. Just turn them around and put them outside the door. Because we don't want kids who don't want to learn. You know that, don't you? So I'll be around anyway.
Okay.
In Alex's lessons that day, good behaviour is the norm.
Right, if you take a really deep breath, just go... and then breathe out. In and out. In and out. So that's what's happening to your lungs inside your body. Amazing.
It seems as though there are really clear sanctions in this school, and the boys know exactly what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. I haven't even seen one mobile phone yet. I was even able to get out a model of the lung and do a practical demonstration. So, you know, I'm having a really great day.
When did this happen?
Alex soon discovers just how strict the discipline policy is.
It's either that group there or that group there, so I think we actually suspend them.
The main suspects for this act of vandalism are in Alex's class.
Well, I've had it up to here with certain individuals, and I will be slowly but surely getting rid of you from the year group.
So you come here and damage this, you should be ashamed of yourself. To call yourself
scum. Just total scum.
A year 11 people,
total
you be
scum.
ashamed of yourself.
You don't deserve to be in here. Just don't deserve, you scum.
So it seems like quite a strict school then, would you say?
Zero tolerance.
Have you ever been sent home?
I got sent home a couple of weeks ago.
You say he's Nigerian?
Because I sat here. For 3 days.
Was that really all you did?
I swear, when I got sent home, everyone was sat here, not there.
I don't want mine out to buy it, man.
That's quite heavy.
Why do you still have your coat on? Is it raining in here?
I'll just put it on my book.
Take it off and stop giving me your silly excuses. You can bugger off. Go home, we don't want you here.
Since Labour came to power, they've sought to minimise the number of children excluded from school. Wherever possible, children who misbehave should remain on school premises. This school doesn't appear to conform to the philosophy.
But does the head send lots of them home if they...
Oh yes, all the time. In a day they badly behaved, God, he will send home like anything close to... One day he sent home 20 students.
Some of the Year 11 pupils were finding the school's approach to discipline heavy-handed.
Sending people home, yeah, no, I know. You're not learning nothing at home, so I don't know. Maybe it has, yeah, like people know not to like muck around and things, but still there's a different way of sorting it out, not just like sending you home for any little thing.
It sounds like a lot of people are sent home, is that true?
About 20 people, yeah, so 25 people, 30 people a day.
Because I thought there's like pressure to not exclude pupils.
Wasn't he doing, you know?
So he does his own thing.
Absolutely.
In the staff room, one of the teachers tells Alex more about what zero tolerance really means here.
We took 25 year 8s just recently, just after Christmas. Put them in the hall for 3 days. We'll not have do anything, just sit on the desk for 3 days. Still didn't suspended 8 of them. They still muck around, those kids.
What, so they didn't do any written work? They just sat there for 3 days?
Made them sit there in silence for 3 days. Torture. Well, that's all I do. They come out there a week later. They vaguely remember the experience. Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, it is quite harsh.
Yeah.
What do you think of that kind of
like
approach?
Guantanamo Bay, isn't it, you know?
Perhaps the strict discipline policy was having an effect on exam results. In 2003, 30% of pupils here got 5 GCSEs or equivalent at C grade or above. By 2004, it had leapt to 49%.
And then
But one teacher suggests to Alex that the huge improvement is due to the type of exams some pupils are sitting.
So the one reason our results, I told you our school results went up last year so much, it was because of the GNVQ results.
And is that because they're worth so many GCSEs?
Because we had so many GCSEs and our boys all got distinctions for them.
So they get 4 GCSEs
they
for
get
that?
4 GCSEs.
Because I thought that it was the weaker students that were doing GNVQ.
No, GNVQ we take average above average. We never take any one of the naughty ones and put them in the group, because if they don't do their portfolios and they're not entered for the exam, then that brings the whole GNVQ group down.
I can see that, yeah.
And this is the reason we want them, because we want the results to be good at the end of the year.
GNVQs are vocational qualifications designed for less academic pupils. Many would say easier than GCSEs. Yet in Exam League tables, one GNVQ pass in science is equivalent to 4 GCSEs at C grade or above.
And where are you sitting?
One teacher, who's taught at the school for 15 years, gives Alex his view.
Like, when they compile statistics for a successful school, they go on the basis of the number of kids who got 5 grade Cs. In other words, if they pass that GNVQ, that's 4, so they need 1 more, and then they're a successful statistic. It's a huge scale. It's how all these schools have gone up the league table.
What worries me as a science teacher who's taught GCSE and A-level is that this GNVQ in science is just not preparation for physics, chemistry or biology at A-level.
Some experts are concerned about the increasing uptake by some schools of GNVQs.
I think the worry is that those decisions are being influenced by the kind of pressure that schools are under to meet targets and to perform well in league tables and all those kinds of things, which are not really about the educational needs of the child.
The government say that exam results last year were the best ever. Some put it down to the greater uptake of GNVQs and the fact that in exam result tables they're counted as equivalent to 4 GCSEs.
Virtually every head teacher I've talked to says that that is a scam. They don't deserve to equate. But the government's delighted, and the government's delighted, of course, because it can say that the statistics are always improving. Ever greater percentage of children are getting 5 A to C or equivalent passes, which is the test measure.
We contacted all 100 schools on the most improved exam results list in 2004. Of the 94 that replied, 84% did GNVQs, compared with just 10% of schools nationally. St Aloysius were asked for a response. They replied,
"We are fully committed to providing the best possible learning environment for our pupils, and measures such as zero tolerance for indiscipline and adherence to uniform rules and seating plans are an important part of this commitment. We refute that on one day 20 boys were sent home. A number of boys chose to behave in an unacceptable way. An alternative classroom was established for those pupils with work provided. There were no exclusions resulting from this action. Staff and students at St Aloysius College have worked hard and succeeded in significantly raising levels of achievement. Improvement has occurred across core GCSE subjects as well as in GNVQ results."
In the last 6 months, I've met some really dedicated teachers doing a fantastic job in often really difficult circumstances. They're under such enormous pressure from inspection, league tables and bad behaviour. I just can't see how things can get better unless schools are given proper resources to tackle their problems and teaching becomes more important than targets.
Well, just a reminder that there's a Channel 4 News special, Attack on London, at 10:50. And coming right up next, a Channel 4 News report.